The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best as I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who know so well that the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, gave utterance to a threat. At length, I will be avenged. At this point, this was a point settled, but the very definitiveness with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally undressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor by deed had I give Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposure upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of the old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I do not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and I bought largely whatever I could. It was about dusk, one evening, during the supreme madness of the carnival season. I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth. He had been drinking much. The man wore a multi. He had a tight-fitting pars-strip dress, and his head was surmounted by conical caps and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done any ringing in his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for the Altimaldo, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Altimaldo? Pipe? Impossible! In the middle of the carnival." "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Altimaldo price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Altimaldo!" "I have my doubts." "Altimaldo!" "I must satisfy them." "Altimaldo!" "As you were engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me. Lucchesi cannot tell Altimaldo from sherry. And yet, some fools will have it that his taste is a match of your own. Come, let us go." "Whither?" "To your vaults." "My friend, no. I will not impose your good nature. I perceive you have engagement. I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold in which I perceive that you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damped. They are encrusted with nitre. Let us go, nevertheless. The coal is merely nothing, Altimaldo. You have been imposed on. As for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Altimaldo." Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed an arm of himself of my arm, putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a roticulaire closely to my person. I suffered him to hurry to my plazo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders to not stir from home. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their 2 sons 2 flamblocks, and giving them one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms in an archway that led to the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length of the descent, stood together at the damp ground of the catacomb of the Monstriers. The gait of my friend was unsteady. Bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. "The pipe," he said. "It is farther on," said I. "But observe the white web fork which gleams from these cavern walls." He turns to me, looks into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled rim of intoxication. "Niter?" he asked at length. "Niter. How long have you had that cough?" My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. "It is nothing," he said at last. "Come," I said with decision, "we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy as once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me it is no matter. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucia." "Enough," he said. "The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of the cough." "True, true," I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should all use proper caution. The draught of this Medoc will defend us from the damps. Here, I knocked off the neck of the bottle, which drew a long row of its fellow that lay down in the mold. "I drink," he said, to the buried that repose around us, and I long to your life." He took my arm, and we proceeded. "These vaults," he said, "are extensive. The Monstriers," I replied, "were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms." A huge human foot or door in an field azure. A foot crushes a serpent rampant whose fangs are embedded in the heel. The motto? Nemo imputa lacentit. "Good," he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through the walls of piled bones with cask and puncheons intermingling, into the most recesses of catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by the arm above the elbow. "The nitriere," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. It drips, moisture trickles among the bones. Come, we will go back here. It is too late. Your cough, it is nothing," he said. Let us go on. But first, another draught of the Medoc. I broke and reached him a flagon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath, and his eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upwards with a gustation that I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, and a grotesque one. "You do not comprehend?" he said. "Not I replied. "Then you are not of the Brotherhood." "How?" "You are not of the Masons." Yes, I said. Yes. "You? Impossible." "A Mason?" "A Mason," I replied. "A sign," he said. "It is," I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my roquelier. "You jest," he exclaimed, recoiling in a few places. "But let us proceed to the Anontillado." "Be it so," I said, replacing the tool with a heavy beneath the cloak, again offering my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We walked through our continued route in search of the Anontillado. We had passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, descended on again. We arrived at the deep crypt, in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeaux rather to glow than to flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with humans' remains, piled over the vault overhead, in the fashion of this manner. From forth the bones have been thrown down, laid promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point of a mound of some size. Within the wall, thus exposed by the displacing of bones, we perceived a still interior recess, in depth with our feet, in width of 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have constructed no special use in and of itself, but formed merely for the interval between the two colossal supports of the roof in the catacombs, and was backed by one of their walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, uplifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry to see the depths of the recess. Its termination, feelable light did not enable us to see. "Proceed," I said. "Herein is the Anontillado. As for he is an ignoratus," interrupted my friend, as he unsteadily stepped forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant he had reached to the extremity of the niche, finding his progress back arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more and I had feltered him to the granite and surface of 2 iron staples distant from each other, from about 2 feet. Horizontally from one depended on a short chain and the other on a padlock. Throwing his links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resistance. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. "Pass your hand," I said, "over the wall." You cannot help feel the nitrate. Indeed, it is very damp. But once again I implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But first you must render all your attentions in my power. "The Anontillado!" ejaculated my friend, not yet recovering from his astonishment. "True," I replied, "the Anontillado." As I said these words, boozed myself among the pile of bones which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I have soon uncovered a quality building stone and mortar. With these materials and the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously walling up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I had discovered the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had this was a low moaning cry from the depth of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. Then there was a long abstinent silence. I had laid in the second tier, the third, the fourth. Then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain, noiseless for several minutes, during which I had hearkened it would be more satisfaction. I ceased my labors and set up upon the bones. When at last clanking subsided, I resumed the travel and finished up without intervention of the fifth, sixth, or seventh tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. And again I paused, holding the flambux over the mansion work, and threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of the loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope at it with it about the recess. But the thought of an instant reassured me. I had placed my hand upon solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed, I aided, I surpassed them in volume and strength. I did this, and the clamor grew still. It was now midnight. My task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, 9th, and 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last, and the 11th, where there remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. From the low niche laugh erected the hairs of my body. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty recognizing that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha ha ha ha, very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have a many rich laugh at the Plazato. Over our wine." "The Altamaldo," I said. "Yes, the Altamaldo, but is it not getting late? They will not be waiting at us at the Plaza. Lady Fortunato and the rest, let us be gone." Yes, I said, let us be gone." "For the love of God, Monstriere!" "Yes," I said, "for the love of God." But to those words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, "Fortunato!" No answer. I called again, "Fortunato!" No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There come forth only a return of jingling bells. My heart grew sick on the account of the dampness on these catacombs. I hastened to make it end my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry re-erected the old rampart bones. For half the century, no mortal has disturbed them. En pace rescriat!